What's up, everybody? Today's hidden gem is Geist, a GameCube game released in 2005, developed by N-Space and Nintendo, and then published by Nintendo. It's kind of an FPS action-adventure game where the main draw is that you control a ghost, a poltergeist, as the main character, and you use your ghostliness to possess everything from inanimate objects to humans and so on. Geist has always been a really interesting game to me, and I see it pop up occasionally on these hidden gem lists. But for every hidden gem, there's a reason it's considered hidden, right? So what was it for Geist? Was it a bust when it released? Was the FPS market just a little oversaturated? Let's turn back the clock and figure out just how Geist slipped through the cracks back in 2005. But before we dive in, make sure to subscribe for more videos just like this one. For Geist, we need to look no further than development. Geist's lifespan actually begins back in 2002, when N-Space began working on a project with the working title Fear. The initial prototypes of the game were built around having this deeply interactive world and this fear mechanic where the protagonist was an invisible man. After hearing rumblings of Nintendo being interested in publishing more unique first-person games for the GameCube, probably to try to hop into the growing interest in FPS, N-Space altered their prototype to make the Invisible Man into a ghost and slapped it over to Nintendo. The gaming giant was definitely interested and decided to work closely with N-Space during development. 6 months into this partnership, that possession mechanic would be added into the mix, apparently being suggested strongly by Mr. Miyamoto. This is a mechanic that almost 2 decades later, Miyamoto would push for again in a game you might have heard of, Super Mario Odyssey. So it's obvious that this innovation was something Miyamoto has long thought was just cool as hell. So everything was swimming along pretty nicely to this point. The game was shown at E3 in 2003 and was promised to release that very same year. And with the GameCube being pretty thin in the FPS genre, people were actually pretty hyped. But here we have our first hiccup with Geist, I think, and possibly the first step towards a rough launch. At this point, Nintendo and N-Space realized that they were having conflicting visions regarding the final product. N-Space wanted to be making a pure FPS game, incorporating the possession mechanics here and there, while Nintendo wanted an action-adventure game, where shooting was just sometimes going to be a byproduct of ghostly mischief. This disconnect led to 2 lengthy delays for the title, as it was also shown and promised at E3 2004 and then finally E3 2005. Any sort of a delay for a game is going to be tough, but when it's a brand new IP that's a departure from the titles fans have come to expect on your system,
He's dead, Jim.
When the game finally did come out in 2005, reception was painfully average. While many outlets praised those unique mechanics of the Fear system and whatnot, the game suffered from some stiff animations and pretty vanilla writing. Other common complaints were some performance issues within the engine and a lack of creativity in solving the scare puzzles, you could call them. The GameSpot review stated, "You'll wonder how the game might have been different if it gave you more freedom to accomplish your objectives." So the game wasn't particularly bad nor stellar when it came out, but just have a look at some of the other games that came out for the GameCube in 2005. For Geist, it seems to me the development issues combined with a pretty strong year of releases led to a lot of people just skipping out on Geist in favor of the games that were much safer bets to throw your $60 at. Specifically, Time Splitters 3 must have really hurt, as it's one of the most loved FPS games on the system. It was incredible for couch co-op as well as the single-player campaign. Also hard not to look at a game like Resident Evil 4, as it had the shooting, adventure, and horror elements, and is still considered one of the best games on the system now. But listen, Geist is certainly still a gem. The fear mechanics, the kind of odd story, and the severely underrated multiplayer mode are reason to give this game a try. I personally had it growing up for some reason, and my brother and our friends, we would play the deathmatch multiplayer mode for entire weekends at a time. It was definitely the sort of game where if you pulled up at the sleepover with it, people thought you were like from the future or something because they had never even heard of it. The originality in Geist is undeniable, so it's absolutely still today worth a look for anyone fiending for something different on the GameCube. It's also one of the few hidden gems on the system that isn't stupidly expensive, complete in box. So that's why I think Geist slipped under the radar back in its day, but what do you think? Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe for more videos, and I will see you next time. Peace.